Okay, well, let's go back to Southern Coffee and see if Frankie can tell us anything about, like, the password for the, to get into the Speakeasy. Shipman said he'd call Southern Coffee if he found any dirt on Green. I could go and see if I had any messages, of course. If I was stuck on the case, a stiff drink with Frankie could give me some hint as well. So, go here. Yes, we will talk as usual. Long shift, I asked? Fix hailed the driver. With as much gravel as a cement mixer. Been on the road 6 hours, probably pulling another 6 before I go back to the missus. Seems like I waste away in this taxi while the boss just overflows his coffers. I'll keep him talking. Kept him talking, he complained about his life for a while. He ended with, but it's the same shit for all us working folk, ain't it? They tell us we've got a hope, but then the rich make the rules, and only the rich break them too. I've been reading Henry R. Carey. Fella talks a lot about this. Says America is ruled in secret by rich men, and the wise leaders don't get to the top and ain't encouraged to do so. So what's your way out? He smiled. Keep reading. Stay sharp. Become one of the rich men. The great thing about America, anyone can get there. I'll disagree. Be contrary for once. I disagreed. I doubt those rich folks will let you into the aristocracy. Why not just overthrow them? He shook his head. You don't get it. Poverty is permanent for the lazy. I'm a hard worker. I'll get out of this mess. Anyhow, he said, we've arrived. You have a good one, miss. I thanked him and left the taxicab. Yes, let's go down to Southern Coffee. Hello! Let's talk. Ask about notes. Yeah, let's ask him about, oops. If he knows anything about what that password might be. Tin Spoon Doorman kept me outside the joint. He wants a password, but I have no ideas. Fill full your cups, feel no distress at all, our great thoughts shrinking less, he says. Who knew gangsters were the Ritalin type? Frankie laughed. All our great thoughts shrinking less, he said. What? I asked, puzzled. He turned and grabbed a bottle from his shelf. Vintage stuff, this. Strange they'd use it as their code. He handed me the bottle, and I read the back of the label. Fill full your cups, feel no distress at all, our great thoughts shrinking less, will do a good deed nevertheless. Okay, so that's the answer. Yes. So the password was the poem from this vintage label. I now knew what I had to say to the doorman. Excellent, that's all I need. Okay, I doubt Shipman has sent anything yet, but... Any messages, Frankie asked? And what do you mean by that? Well, I told Sam Shipman, an old contact on the force, to leave any dirt with you if he found it. Frankie laughed. So now I'm your bartender and your secretary. Say, if I become your housemaid, will you at least pay me? So I'm guessing you haven't heard anything, I said. Nothing yet, Miss Chief, Frankie chuckled. Shipman's supposed to call you about Green? What do you got so far? No real breaks to speak of, I said. Well, alright. I'll let you know if this Shipman gives me a call. I thanked him. Okay. I'll say never mind, and swivel away from the bar. Now we'll go back to that speakeasy. Still need to talk to Tiny Paul, but I hadn't given the correct password. But now we know it. I stepped into the taxi and rocked into a comfortable position on the back seat. I thought about starting chat with the driver, as usual. Went to the Palace of Fine Arts, the driver said when I asked about his weekend. They were holding a guest gallery. My girl is a big Georgia O'Keeffe fan. Myself, I don't get all this new stuff. What's so hard about painting some wavy lines? For the rest of the trip, we spoke about the other artwork that had been on display. Pieces from Charles Sheeler, Louis Lazowick, Edward Steichen, and many more. I was sad to have missed it, but we stopped at my destination. I left my envy in the taxicab and refocused on the case at hand. Alright, let's knock again. I know your password now, buddy. Where do I have to get this from? Ah, there we go. Will do a good deed nevertheless. I recited the line that Frankie had shown me on one of the bottles. The eyes squinted. Wait here, came a gruff response. The panel slid shut and I heard footsteps walking away. I rolled a cigarette and waited. After a quarter of an hour, the panel opened again. Good heavens. Bar's closed, but you can shoot pool in the upstairs room, said the eyes. He pulled the door ajar so I could see a set of metal stairs. walk up. I walked up the stairs and opened the thin wooden door to the billiards room. It was much smaller than I'd expected for a gangster's paradise. The only light came from the hanging lamps above the billiards table. The haze of cigarette smoke darkened the room's corners. Ah, now we can look around. Maybe that's Tiny Paul and we can shoot a game of pool with him. And a couple of tall chairs were placed around the billiards table. The room was lit only by the dangling lamps above the billiards table. Pool table was the focus of the space. The light reflecting from its smooth green surface tinted the den. The rack on the wall held 5 cues. Bottle of unlabeled wine sat on the table. When I sniffed, it smelled of strong spice. Okay, I guess that's all to look at. So, hey, buddy. I saw a tall, broad-shouldered man playing the table by himself. Based on Frankie's description, I gathered this was Tiny Paul. I cleared my throat to get him to look at me, then followed with the casual, "Are you ever gonna take a shot?" He stood up straight, rested his cue on the table, and looked at me sideways. It was the petulant look of a boy forced to play with his younger sibling. "Hello," he sighed. His voice was deep, or I asked him more about billiards. I asked him more about billiards. "The thing is," he said in his baritone, "once you clear more balls than the other guy, you've got more crap in your way. Billiards is all about navigating through the crap. I never shot much pool, but I thought he might like me more if I feigned interest. I considered lying to him, telling him that I played a lot too." Let's not lie to, yeah. "I'll stick to cards." I didn't lie to him just then. "Stud, blackjack, or bridge?" he asked hoarsely. I raised an eyebrow and he showed a sheepish grin. "A gambler plays them all." He continued, after cracking his knuckles, "But I don't think you're here for a game. Ask for a drink for once, for crying out loud. Mind pouring us each a growler?" I hope getting Paul's lips wet might make it easier to grab something out of him. But he wasn't having it. Paul sighed. "We're closed here. You'll have to come back later." He seemed annoyed at my stalling. "You like green?" I asked. The wrinkles on his brow deepened. "Like or dislike, it don't matter sometimes. I work with what I'm given, and he's giving us a good lead. I suppose that's why you're here, Malone." So he'd known me too. The doorman must have looked me up. The bay talks fast. "Anyhow," he said, eyeing the billiards table, "you need anything else from me? If you want something, better ask specific. Mobsters never failed to grate my nerves. He wouldn't tell me anything unless I pushed him with what I already knew." Alright, we gotta figure out what notes to ask him about. Well, let's just ask straight up about the bootlicking scheme. "So you're giving Green the dough?" I asked. "That's right," he said. "We gave him the cash to get the supply going." "You already gave him the money? Aren't you afraid he's gonna run out on you?" "Yeah, 'cause he had those tickets to St. Louis. Tiny Paul frowned. "I suppose you know less than I thought." "Well, just to set you straight, that kid's right under my thumb. No way he'd get out of town alive before setting up our source." He turned his gaze back onto the pool table. "Anything else?" I wonder what happened if I, showed him the, or asked him about the tickets to St. Louis. Let's ask if he knows about the threatening letter. "Know anything about this note?" I asked, and pulled the letter out with a black hand on it. Tiny Paul looked at the page, then laughed with his whole body. "So there is a letter. Green's shaking over that. I'm not losing sleep, though. Look, Green and I aren't best pals, but nobody will touch him with our protection, and none of us sent it to him, or else I would know about it. Anything else?" Yeah. So, well, on that note, let's see if he has anything to say about the letter being fake. "You know Green's note is a fake," I said, "so somebody's goofing Green?" He laughed heartily. "Or maybe Green's just toying with you." He blew chalk off the end of his pool cue and asked, "Anything else?" Again. Now let's ask about Mrs. Green being the singer at the Spoon. "Green's wife is a torture here?" I asked. Paul smiled. "With the pipes she's got built in that body, she's the reason most fellas keep coming back to the joint." Alright. We've gotten a little bit of evidence from all that. Got others watching Green. Let's about Mrs. Green following her husband. Okay, no. That does not have anything to do with it. What's that got to do with any of this, he asks. So, I'd say so. What about those tickets to St. Louis, huh? I considered telling Tiny Paul about Green's tickets to St. Louis, but if these mobsters thought that Green was about to blow town, they'd be liable to dig him an early grave. I still need to solve my case, and for that I need my employer alive. Maybe after it all cleared up, I'd mention Green's tickets. Must have been a lost in thought, because Tiny Paul said, "Can I get back to this already?" motioning to the pool table. Alright, that's funny. Oh, I can just fucking straight up ask about the goals. That's funny. Asked him about the bootlegging, but all they got me was a frown. Refused to give any leads about that. Of course. Oops, discover Green's past. Anything about Green's past, I asked him? He's a local kid, I think. Been around the lounge a while. Boss knows him better than I do. I guess we could ask about the password just for fun. We'll do a good deed nevertheless, I repeated to Paul. Why make an old liquor slogan your password? Paul smiled. An old liquor slogan? That's rich, and here I thought you dicks were supposed to be learned. I raised a questioning brow. It's called The Drinking Song, a poem by Thomas Hardy, an old Brit. Ask more about the poem. It's all about man thinking we're the top of the chain and slowly understanding we aren't. All our thoughts, all our theories amount to nothing. We're just apes floating in the wide ocean of space. How can you possibly cope with that? How do we even know what we are now? But to hell with it. Take your mind off it, have a drink, and do something good. Not a bad code if you ask me. I told my head neither agreeing or disagreeing, but simply impressed by Paul's knowledge of Victorian poetry. Alright, that's enough of a lesson. Is there something else you wanted, or can I get back to this? Motioning to the billiards table. It's funny how so many things, like, get put into your evidence tab, but like dangling lamps, but I mean, I cannot imagine that is ever going to come in handy. Guess I can ask about billiards, since he's into it. My eyes drifted at the pool table. Seems you don't like the game as much as the strategy. You got it, he said. Nope. Okay, that leads to nothing useful. Fuck, ask him about the wine bottle, why not? Ah, that bottle on the table, I asked. He said, that's the stuff, a sample from Green's source. I know some Napa wine that smells exactly like it, I said to him. That's so, he smiled. Well, that one's from Vancouver. Interesting. I had to work every muscle in my face to stop my jaw from hitting the floor. Where's the wine from, Paul? I asked him again. It's from Vancouver, he repeated. Frankie told me that only Napa grapes had this type of spice. If Paul didn't know this bottle was local, I wasn't gonna tell him. Fascinating. But it told me something very important. I had to confirm with Frankie, but if my hunch was on the money, then Connor Green was not getting his wine from Canada, and he was playing square with Tiny Paul. Okay. It's funny, anything else, Paul asked me. I snapped back into the moment and considered if I needed him to tell me anything else, though I just snagged quite the load. Okay, yeah, that's funny. It's like, I just kind of like, as an offhand thing, I was thinking like, oh, I'll go try talking to other people, but why not ask him about the wine bottle first, just in case, and there, man, that was a big thing. Alright, so I didn't have anything else to say to him, so he cracked his knuckles, arched over the table, and resumed lining up shots. Okay. Okay, well, that done, I think I'm gonna call it good here for now, and we'll continue trying to accomplish our goals of discovering Green's past and continuing investigating the bootlegging, at another time. But, for now, thanks for watching. Until next time, rock on.